I've seen this type of video all over YouTube and I wanted to give it a try, and I thought it might be fun to rank popular tropes used in film and television shows. Now, I'm not going to be able to rank all of them because there is a lot, and I mean a lot. So I've picked some of the most recognisable, overused, controversial ones. First of all is the classic makeover scene, which is seen in many teen rom-coms, such as Princess Diaries, where we see somebody who is conventionally unattractive transformed into somebody conventionally attractive. This trope is continued to be used in different ways, such as in The Witcher, when Yennefer is transformed from a hunchback to a beautiful woman using magic. I'm going to rank this as D, because while it is entertaining, it does perpetuate the idea that people are worth more when they are conventionally attractive. Next is the "they're behind me, aren't they" trope. This one is a bit sillier than the rest and is often quite amusing. So I'm going to rank it as C, because while it can be funny, it is incredibly overused and it has kind of lost the effect. And every time somebody insults someone, I expect that person to be behind them. Now we have the classic love triangle, which everybody has seen in a TV show or movie. So we've got examples like Twilight, Hunger Games, Orange is the New Black. The list goes on and on and on. I'm going to put this in B because I do quite like it. It adds a bit of drama, tension, has you rooting for people. Again, it is overused and sometimes seems unnecessary, like in To All the Boys, P.S. I Still Love You. The love triangle between Lara Jean, Peter, John Ambrose was more annoying for me than it was entertaining. There was no resolution as a result of the love triangle. Peter gets away with his toxic behaviour and there's definitely more chemistry between Lara Jean and John, and I can almost guarantee that a very similar thing will happen in the third film. Next is the enhance trope, which is used in hacking scenes and detective shows, in which a character is able to zoom into a blurry CCTV picture and enhance it so it's magically not blurry at all. I'm going to give this a C because it is used to further the story, but it is quite unrealistic. Next is a very popular one. The Chosen One. I'm going to give this an A. This is successful in lots of fantasy films and often leads to the protagonist trying to figure out why he or she has been chosen and whether they actually were in the first place. It can bring both conflict and resolution when used correctly, like in Harry Potter, for example. The main downfall for this is that it means that the protagonist can get away with pretty much anything, which can be a bit annoying. Next, we have the damsel in distress, and this is going in E. While it does drive the typically male story, it does perpetuate that women need saving and that are only there to give men a story. Now is the Mary Sue or Gary Stew trope, which is when a character somehow knows everything and is incredibly skilled at something that takes years to train. I'm going to give this a D, as even though a character can have natural talent or intelligence, this sometimes comes across as lazy writing and can ruin a potentially great character. The manic pixie dream girl is another popular trope and is defined as a static character who has eccentric personality quirks and are unabashedly girlish, and the most popular use is in 500 Days of Summer. I'm going to put this in B because I do really like the way these characters are not ashamed to be themselves. There is a little bit of criticism about this character type, as film critic Nathan Rabin says that they exist solely in the fevered imaginations of sensitive writer-directors to teach broodingly soulful young men to embrace life and its infinite mysteries and adventures. I'm not sure if this counts as a trope, but it's when a character is unnecessarily and constantly moody, like in End of the Fucking World and The Witcher, and I'm going to give this a C. It can be funny and add variety and conflict between characters, but it can get a little bit repetitive and unrealistic. One that automatically is in F is the way that police detectives and journalists break the law in order to catch people they see as criminals. They pass it off as doing what they feel necessary to get justice, but it perpetuates the idea that real police can do what they want and break the law when they want, which is incredibly dangerous. Next is the I'm not like other girls and the I'm weird trope, which just annoys me, so I'm giving it an E. No real explanation needed, it's just really frustrating for me. Another classic trope is the femme fatale, and this is one that has been used in films for decades. I'm going to give this a B, as there sometimes can be some sexist attitudes, but it is refreshing to see a woman in control of their sexuality and not be afraid to use their power, especially in film genres where men tend to have most of the power. Next is the "It's not my dream, it's yours, Dad," which we've seen in High School Musical, A Cinderella Story. I'm giving this a B because it is kind of cliche, but it is nice to see people defying what people expected them and following their own path. Another one that is automatically an F is Stockholm Syndrome, which is women falling in love with their abusers and captors. It's an incredibly dangerous trope to glamorise and romanticise, and we've seen it very mildly in Beauty and the Beast, and I don't know how this film was made, but in 365 Days, which I just downright refuse to watch because the whole plot is someone capturing a woman and giving her a year to fall in love with him. And of course she does, because... Next is plot armour, which is keeping characters alive for the sake of the plot when they obviously would have died, which we've seen in Game of Thrones with Jaime Lannister. Supernatural, in which Dean has died 114 times, 106 times in just one episode, and Sam has died 6 times. It's a way of creating drama and tension. I'm going to give this D because it can get a bit tiring. You lose kind of the tension and the anticipation of the character dying because it's fine, they're just going to come back. Another straight to F is teacher-student relationships. It is very dangerous. It shouldn't be glamorised. It will just lead to teenagers feeling that their teacher's advances on them is acceptable, when it is absolutely not. Next is the reluctant hero, which is when a character is put on a quest or a mission and they obviously don't want to do it, but slowly come around to it. Popular example of this is Frodo, and I'm going to give this an A because I do kind of like the idea of someone being thrust into an insane mission and having to go along with it. It can add a bit of humour, tension, conflict. I think it's a very, very successful idea. Next is the anti-hero, which relates a lot to reluctant hero, and is when the protagonist or central character lacks your conventional and typical heroic attitudes, which you might have Fleabag from Fleabag, and Walter White from Breaking Bad. And I'm also going to give this an A. I think it is great to see somebody who isn't perfect as the protagonist, who isn't this morally great person. And I think it adds quite a nice dynamic to the show because you're rooting for somebody who, if they weren't the protagonist, you might not be rooting for. Next is the "here comes the hero" trope, which I first saw in Lord of the Rings, which is when you have your main characters, your protagonists, losing a battle, and then you have Gandalf at the top with his massive army roll down the hill and restore hope. And this is going in B because it is very good, but it can be kind of a bit predictable sometimes when you're like, oh, here we go, they're back, we're fine. And our last trope is when we have a long build up to characters getting together and finally passionately kissing. And this is going to S. Top tier trope. I absolutely love it. The build up in tension is great. We've seen this in Parks and Rec, The Office. It is a trope that can be used in any genre and it's just perfect.